Are you a Black woman who is doing what you love, but you're still struggling? In this live stream of Moving Beyond Burnout, I'm going to talk more about how to do what you love without losing yourself. My name is Camesha. I am a licensed clinical social worker, a recovering workaholic, and burnout overcomer. If you are joining me for the first time, please like this video. Please share this video with someone that you know of who's struggling with burnout or purpose driven work. And also, please subscribe to the channel if you're on YouTube, and in the description box you can find where you can subscribe to my newsletter where I share so many different insights about burnout. So, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. So, as I said earlier, the topic is how to do what you love without losing yourself. I wanted to talk about this because we are in a very purpose driven, passion focused space right now. There are more people than ever who are deciding to change careers or who are deciding to go into entrepreneurship based on what they believe their purpose is on this planet, and then also what they feel passionate about, what their interests are, what they're led to. And so we are in a time where I don't want to say millennials started this because, I'm a millennial, so I'm going to, gas us up a little bit. But I think millennials were the first maybe generation to say that we want our work to align with our personal values. And I think generations before, Generation X, Generation Baby Boomers, also cared about this. But for people who are in their 30s or in their 20s or even younger, want to find and do things that deeply align with their values and their interests. So if you are someone who's watching this and you're like, I am doing what I love, I want to do something that's my passion and that I feel really called to do, I think that is a beautiful thing. I can tell you as someone who founded an organization, founded a business that was deeply connected to my experience. There is a different effort that I think I put into my work and a different level of intention. And that could be you as well. You may be in a career or you may be thinking about launching something on your own based on what you love. And some of the benefits of doing what you love is that there can be sometimes higher motivation because you see the impact, you see the value, and there can also be a sense of reward from seeing how your work is impacting you and also is impacting others, regardless of what sector you're in. You don't have to be in a helping profession like myself to see the impact and of what you do. So I want to just talk about that there is a lot of benefits of doing purpose-driven work. There are also challenges with, doing what you love. And one of the things that I want to touch on real quick is the career identity crisis. So for people who may be in a space where they're not able to do their passion or focus on their passion or their interest in their career, can experience something like the career identity crisis, where you can begin to doubt yourself or feel uncertain about who you are because your job doesn't align with your personal values or interests. Unfortunately, or I don't want to say unfortunately, but there are many people who aren't able to align those things, right? They're not able to particularly find a career or a job that directly connects to their interests, or for some people to be able to make, a standard of living that is in alignment with what they need. And so some people who can be in that space may experience this career identity crisis, begin to question themselves, who they are, their purpose, because their job does not align with their values. So if that is you, please put in the comments like, hey, I'm working a job, I might be in a crisis right now because it's not aligning. And that's not necessarily, there's no judgment on if it's good or bad. It just is what it actually is. And so one of the things that I want to talk about For people who are in a career identity crisis where you're trying to figure out how your work can be meaningful. And then for the people who are already doing what you love, I want to talk about the challenges of when your career is deeply tied to your identity. Um, Doing work that aligns with who you are and your story and your experiences or the experiences of others who share your identity can be really, really powerful. But one of the challenges that I've seen is that if your career or your work is really tied to who you are as a person, if things do not go the way that you imagine, or if things are really difficult, it can hit different. It can hit different because it's like, this is my passion. This is what I believe I'm supposed to be doing. But at the same time, I'm really, really struggling. And so when the career becomes a big part of who we are. There are some people who may not be able to see who you are outside of what you do. So, how can you begin to think about who am I, period? And then this is what I'm doing, right? And so sometimes that tug and pull between who am I and what I do can get really convoluted. And that is when people can start to really experience some mental health related challenges, because if, like I said earlier, if things are not going as planned or if things are really difficult, you may, because your career is so tied to your identity, you may take risks that you maybe usually wouldn't take if you were in doing, something else. You may burn out because you're trying to make this thing that is your purpose and that is your passion actually happen. And one of the biggest things that I really see are people questioning their worth. Um, and especially in an age where we have social media influencers and so many messages about who you are based on how much money you make, your value based on if you're able to quote unquote do what you love, that can take a hit on your self worth. So I want people to know that if you are doing what you love, it's important to begin to detach that from your worthiness as a person. And if you're someone who has interests and passions and you're not doing that right now in your career, that doesn't mean that your worth or your value is diminished at all. So, one of the ways that we can begin to do what we love without losing ourselves, losing our identity outside of what we produce, is to try to get the best of both worlds. So, how can you have passion or interest, but also have practicality? And that looks like, for example, I may be in a position where I'm interested in supporting Black girls' mental health, right? But I may not necessarily be able to do that based on what my other focuses need to be right now, in my personal life and my career. So, for me to feed that passion, I may volunteer at a mentoring organization, but I also know that this job that I'm focusing on, it may be paying the bills, but it could also give me time to refine how I want to spend my time and also how it's going to align with my personal values. So there is a way that if you are either in doing something that you're really passionate about, or if you're not, that you can begin to think about like how you can try to get the best of both worlds. I need to do what I need to do to make a living, but I also want to feed these interests and these passions that I have. Another thing that you can begin to think of is, how can I do the things that interest me, knowing the limitations of what the workforce can provide for me materially? So this goes back into thinking about like, what are the limits of where we're at currently right now in the workforce? And some of the things that we have interest in may not always be able to be produced materially, whether that's through entrepreneurship or current, career fields. So how can I, still feed that with also being realistic with where things are at in the workforce? Also, getting clarity about what you need to live a full life, your values, and if a career needs to be the main source of your purpose and identity. So, back to what I said before, sometimes when our identity is so tied up into what we believe our purpose is, sometimes we think that our career has to be the main source of living that out. And it can be in so many different ways, but getting clarity about how do I want to live a full life, and what can and does a career have to be the source of how I live that out? The other thing is broadening purpose to not be tied to a career, but rather who you are. So, for example, I can tell you, like with Sista Afya, some people have said, "This is your purpose. This is your purpose. You're supposed to help, Black women with their mental health and all these other things." But when I really took a step back, I was like, my purpose is not Sista Afya, this business that I created. The purpose, one of my purposes, is to support women in community, and that can be wherever I enter. It doesn't have to be through this particular business that I have. So when I began to really broaden my purpose as not being something that I do, but connected to my gifts and talents of who I that really, really helped me to kind of separate my identity, my value, and my worth from what I do. And then lastly, just acknowledging that if you're not doing your passion, it doesn't mean that something is wrong with who you are. As I said, we are in a space where there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of messages about I have to do, if I'm not doing what I love, I'm, a loser, or I'm unfulfilled, or all these different messages that are told over and over and over again. And if your passion is not directly tied to your career, that is okay. There is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing that there is there is nothing that says that your worth is different because you're not actually maybe doing exactly what your interests or your passions are in your career. So with this topic, I just really wanted to give you all another way to think about how you can do what you love without losing yourself, whether that's in a career or even outside of a career, and other interests or passions that you have. And I know that it can be so difficult in this day and age to separate the two because of a lot of the messages, even a lot of pressure. And I will tell you all this. I see this a lot in entrepreneurship spaces, but I also see this in religious spaces as well. I identify as a Christian, so I'm going to speak from that experience, but I see a lot of messaging to women about what is your purpose? Who are you? What are you supposed to do? Why, and all of that messaging puts so much pressure on ourselves to figure it out. And if we maybe don't have it figured out right now, we can sometimes be criticized or feel lost, and just feel like we don't know exactly who we are. So I want you all to be really grounded about this, and to identify who you are, what are your values, what's important to you, but to also not lose that with making that a focus in your career. So that's what I have today. I know I have a couple people on Instagram who have joined, and are watching, but please, write down in the comments or share, what your thoughts are about this, how this connects to your current experience and where you're at in your life. And I would love, to hear you all's thoughts. And next week is, this next week we're celebrating Labor Day. And so my topic is going to be honoring Black women's labor. So we're going to have like a celebratory live stream about honoring Black women, our contributions to our families, communities, society, that we get overlooked so much. And so I just want to take some time to honor us, to honor Black women and all the labor that we have put into this world in so many different ways. So please join me next Thursday at 12 p.m. I'll be going live on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, etc. Please like the video. It helps people to find us. Please share this video with someone you know who's navigating. I'm passionate, but I have a passion, but I'm struggling right now. And I believe this video, as you've watched, can really help to provide people with clarity and a sense of confidence in who they are. And also subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube, and subscribe to my newsletter. I have that in the description section. If you're watching on Instagram, you can go to my bio and then you'll see Moving Beyond Burnout, and you can subscribe to the newsletter there. So thank you so much for your time and attention. I hope that this perspective is helpful, give you some things to think about. And I want you to take care of all of you and be well.